Hey dudes, it's Goat the Great, and today I am presenting my impressions of Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Um, I didn't really want to present any kind of impressions to this game until I actually had the opportunity to play it in full, but I came to the realization that that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. Had I waited until I was done with this game to present my impressions, I'd probably be doing it somewhere approximately January of 2013. I'm being foolish, but it's a very lengthy game, and I wanted to get this out before the game became stale, especially with the slew of other titles that are coming out in the forthcoming weeks and months. So I I'm blown away by this title. I really don't know what else to say other than that. I'll get into why I'm blown away by it, but the first thing I'd like to do is actually get into what I do not like about the game. And quite honestly, there isn't much. As a matter of fact, there is only one thing I do not like about this game, and it's its camera. The camera is the most annoying aspect of this title. It gets in the way of battles. It prevents you from being able to see certain aspects, certain secrets that are in the game are just unfindable, if that's a word. Certain secrets are just basically unviewable due to the fact of the camera. It kind of pans on its own. It's at a distance for certain things, and it just overall gets in the way of what is otherwise an excellent title. Now that that's been taken out of the way, I'll get into what I do like, which is everything else other than that. I'll first start off with the sound. This game has by far the best soundtrack that I've heard in any game this year. There's Heavy Rain, which other than Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Heavy Rain is the best game I've played in 2010. And because of the fact that it is a great game like that, the soundtrack did have a lot to do with what the game was about. And this game is the same way. The soundtrack just captures the moment. It actually brings you deeper into the experience and makes it more of an enjoyable overall title. I just love when you're fighting a boss and that symphonic soundtrack is just going off in the background. It just adds to the overall atmosphere and, dare I say it, epicness of the game. The scale and the epicness of the game is well presented in the sound. The rattle of the chain being used by Gabriel, the sound of the beasts that you fight, the voice acting, it's all well done, well presented, and it's in top-notch quality. I give a major thumbs up and applause to the team over at Mercury Steam that worked on the sound design of this game. They deserve an applause. This should actually be one of the games that are contenders for the best sound design in a game of 2010. I'll move on to the controls. The controls are perfect for this game. At first, it was a little difficult for me to get used to the way the controls are because, with an action platformer hack and slash type game, I kind of expected controls that are similar, if not almost mirroring that of God of War, but not with this title. The developers actually sat down and mapped out the buttons properly, and it works perfectly for this game. The way in which you dodge, the attacks, the combos. Unfortunately, there is no camera control, which would have been nice, but yeah, different things of that nature. The fact that you have all these different abilities, it's really hard to find a way to map things like that into a controller without making it just, I don't know, cumbersome for the player, and it definitely is in no way cumbersome. The controls are seamless, they're intuitive, and they just make sense. It feels right when you're playing this, whether you're breaking out a combo, whether you're dodging, blocking, using your magic, absorbing energy, it all just works perfectly. And again, they hit the mark on that. Graphics. I I could shed a tear for the graphics in this game. The only other game that I think that reminds me of how good this game looks. Well, actually, there are two on the PlayStation 3 because that's the version of the game that I got. I heard that the Xbox version had some graphical hiccups and it was also on 2 discs, so naturally I opted for the PS3 version. But yeah, I saw no slowdown, I saw no frame rate hiccups, I saw no tearing, I saw no problems with the graphics in this game. And as far as the way it looks, the textures, the sharpness, the colors, the overall resolution, everything is just so well done by the team. I can only compare this game graphically to Uncharted and to a certain degree God of War, because God of War is another excellent title. I couldn't really speak on the frame rate that it's running at if I would have to guess, because I'm not a big frame rate whore and I don't really pay much attention. I would assume it's running between 30 and 45 frames per second at any given moment. And the fact that it may not be running at a full 60 frames per second really doesn't bother me. I don't notice it, and it really makes no difference. So, yeah, the graphics are some of the best graphics I've seen in any game this year, and quite frankly, any game, period. The way that Gabriel animates his animations with everything, just perfectly presented. The scale of the bosses as well. I mean, I hear a lot of people comparing it to Shadow of the Colossus, which I have not played. But if Shadows of the Colossus has huge bosses like this, I can understand why they would have drawn the comparison. It's very similar to the size of the bosses in God of War, and so far the variety of fighting the bosses, I haven't really come across much of that yet. But I'm still very early in the game, and these are just my impressions of it anyway. But yeah, graphics awesome. And last but not least, well, actually, before I move on to the gameplay, I'll speak on the last ability of this game. This game apparently is anywhere between 15 and 20 hours of standard playtime, which I find hard to believe, but I'm assuming that's for the people that decide not to complete things, because if you're going to backtrack and pick up every bit of magic, every gem, acquire all the secrets, gain all the combos, you're definitely not finishing this game in 15 to 20 hours. I would have to say more like 30 to 40 hours. But again, that depends on if you're a completionist or if you're just a playthrough guy. Finally, I will speak on the actual gameplay. The gameplay in this game is top notch. The platforming elements feel right, the combat elements feel right, the puzzle elements feel right. I've never, other than Uncharted, I'll draw a lot of comparisons to Uncharted because that was also a great game. Other than Uncharted, I've never played a game on the PS3 that has had such an overwhelmingly perfect balance of gameplay elements, from platforming, combat, and puzzles. It just is done properly, and the combos that this guy has is it's outrageous. So far I've probably unlocked about 15 to 20, and there are a ton more that are remaining. So that just is amazing. You're going to be unlocking new moves for the entirety of this game. And like I said, the platforming elements, leaping from level to level, hanging off of platforms, gripping onto bosses, the actual combat when you're fighting the smaller enemies, the gripping. I can't even continue the commentary. I'm overwhelmed. All I can say is, if you're into this type of game and you have not picked up Lords of Shadow, stop watching this video, run out and pick it up. Otherwise, you'd be missing out on one of the best gameplay experiences of 2010 and of this generation, period. It's been Goat the Great. These have been my impressions of Castlevania Lords of Shadow, and I am out. Peace.